Hi, Narye. Thank you so much for joining us on C's podcast. This season, we will be talking about, you know, child sexual abuse in regards to like within the families, familial sexual abuse, and kind of like the systems, right? Like when we think about the school system, the courts, any system that could have been involved, CPS, police, focusing a bit on how they responded and kind of like what was missing, what they could have done better. But we're gonna start off with you introducing yourself. Let me just let them know how you are. My name is Cheryl Morrell. I'm the host of C's podcast, and we're here with Narai.
Hi, I am Narye Gardner. I'm 20 years old. I currently live in Houston, Texas. I'm originally from Tampa, Florida, but I was also living in a small town called Brooksville, Florida, about 40 to 30 minutes away from Tampa, Florida. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Narai, for being on here and introducing yourself. So we're gonna get into it. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, what brings you to C's podcast? I know I reached out to you, but in regards to like child sexual abuse, can you share a little bit about your upbringing and why you're here today?
I'm here to really spread awareness and let people know that these things are real, no matter how many times your abuser or whoever the enabler is denying the truth. I'm here to speak my truth and share my truth and allow the world to know that these things really do happen. And these people that do these things to the victims need to take accountability, and we need to receive justice because of the systems failing and not having enough evidence that they claim that they have and just doing something about it because a child is speaking out. But like I said before, I am from Tampa, Florida. I've been living in Tampa, Florida since a newborn to around 8 years old. And right after that, I was moving in with my grandma. But basically, my childhood really was all over the place. I grew up, enjoying time, spending time with my mother, and actually thinking that her husband was my real father. I wasn't told at the time that that wasn't my biological father, but my mother also had two other kids by him. So I'm living with them two, including my other two older siblings, which is my sister and my older brother. But everything was pretty fine up until I became, of age, maybe 4, 5, 6, remembering things and just remembering the abuse when it comes to physical abuse and not just whoopings, just abuse that leaves marks on you, abuse that isn't normal type of abuse. And then around 8 years old, actually remembering the sexual assault that happened to me.
Wow. Your siblings father came around when you were 8 years old. And then you said it was two older siblings and two younger, so that would five of you all in the home.
Yes, 5.
Okay, so you remembered the sexual assault when you got older, or you remember when you were 8 years old? I'm sorry.
I remember when I was 8 years old as well, but I didn't understand it, of course. But the moment I became older and the more I grew, I would think about all the things that happened and I began to understand what it truly was, what I truly seen, what was really happening to me.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So can you share with us a little bit, if you don't mind? You know, I want people to understand kind of like the grooming of it all, right?
Right,
Like how a harm doer, an abuser, they groom, right? They gain your trust.
right,
And what I've learned over the years is that it's all about power and control over
correct.
whoever they're harming. So can you let us know, like, how did the grooming start? Like, what did that look like for him to gain your trust?
Right. So my mom's husband's name is actually Anthony Jones. I think he was maybe about in his 30s when it happened. And basically, it started one random day, as an 8 year old, getting fresh out of the shower, finding clothes. We didn't really have dressers because it was so much of us. And you know, they were always on a budget. So I had this big garbage bag, and that's where mostly where my clothes were in. So I was searching, for underwear to put on. I don't remember if I had a shirt or anything, but I just know I didn't have any bottoms on.
Yeah.
The my door is wide open. Not sure why I had it wide open, but felt comfortable. Um, I was looking for my underwear, and then I look up, and then I see my mom's husband staring at me. And I look at him, and he goes to say, "What are you doing?" Like in like a tone that was like trying to scare me in a way, as
Mhm.
if I was doing something wrong.
Mhm.
And I begin to say, "Getting dressed or nothing, you know?" So he goes, "Oh, okay," and then walks downstairs. So the next day, I think I maybe go to school or something like that. He tells me to come downstairs. So I come downstairs, and he asks me, "What were you doing that day in the room?" And I was like, "Putting on clothes." He was like, "What was that I seen?" And I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" He was like, "No, I seen something." And TMI, but for some reason, me and my sister, we hit puberty pretty early. So as an 8-year old, I did have hair down there. Okay. So he began to say, "What was that? I seen something." So he tells me to take off my pants, and the bathroom door was wide open. He tells me to go into the bathroom door and sit against the wall on the ground. And he makes me open my legs and tells me to basically spread my private part open, and begins to say, "Oh, okay." And I'm doing it feeling uncomfortable because I know, and as even as an 8-year old, I'm just like, what am I showing you? I never did this before. I haven't even looked down there myself for real as an 8-year old. So I don't understand what I was doing. So I did that. He made me put my clothes back on, and then went right back to my room. But
Siblings, did he already have your siblings? Did you all?
yes, they were upstairs, and majority of the time we would never come downstairs without permission, or unless we were maybe going to get some water or food or something like that. So around the time they would know not to come out. So when he called me down, it was just me. So
Okay.
when I came down there, he asked me those things and stuff like that. But I think it was really him knowing that he had control. So whenever he would ask me questions, I'm immediately giving it to him, and I'm scared of him. So it's like everything he says, I'm going to do. It
Right,
was,
right,
yeah.
right.
It was never, you're asking me this, and I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do that,"
Yeah,
because I'm scared you're going to beat me if I do
right.
not. So I'm doing everything he's asking me to do. So I think it started, I was actually going to summer school for third grade, because I think I had missed maybe, I was struggling when it came to a certain subject.
Mhm.
So he would take me to summer school, and my mom would be like, "Hey, do you want me to take you, or you want your dad to take it?" I'm just like, "You can take me." And certain days when he would take me, I think it literally started with actually school being over, and before summer school started, I had a Android, so I had a phone, and I was in this group chat with a guy that was my age, of course, and then a girl that was my age. She was one of my friends, and I liked the guy, but then I would say things that an 8-year old shouldn't say, like, "Oh, um, I would say the girl's name. I was like, 'You like him,' or inappropriate things like, 'Oh, you like his, private part,' or something, like in a joking way, like as a child shouldn't be saying things like this. Don't even know where I got it from, but was just saying it.
Yeah.
And one time, I got the phone taken, and it was on Hangouts. I think that's the app,
Okay.
Hangouts, and it was these other messages with me and these two teenage girls. They were twins. And I would text them every day, and I didn't even know them. They were just apparently, like, friends, and they would call me names like, "Oh, ho, why aren't you answering me?" Whenever I would get my phone taken. So he took the phone, he went through that. He was like, "Do you know what that is? Do you know what an HO is?" And I didn't, and stuff like that. So he finally went through the messages between the girl and the boy that I was texting in a group chat, which were my friends. And he seen the messages of me cursing, me saying all types of stuff. And then he seen the inappropriate message that I was saying. And my mom, he brought me downstairs. They began to, like, question me, like, what is this? What are you doing? Where did you get this from? And there's like, oh yeah, you finna get a whooping for this. Yeah, they're questioning me, but they know what they're gonna do towards the end. So
Mhm.
I think right after they did all of that, that was probably the worst whooping I've had in my life that I could remember. And my mom being a part of it, just watching and just, letting it happen, because I knew I was wrong for the certain things that I was saying, but where it led up to, it shouldn't have gone that far. So it's like he's seen me knowing about certain things
Mm.
that I shouldn't have known.
Right.
So since then, one day my mom just, I think she wasn't home, and he asked me, he was just like, have you ever seen a penis before? And
Can I just say something real quick before you go into that part? Because you being 8 years old and saying things that are explicit, right? Like you're 8. Where would an 8-year-old get this from?
right.
It had to be in your you've seen it somehow. Maybe it was TV,
Hmm.
maybe you overheard it, but it sounded like you knew what it was, right? So
Right.
somehow whether that was through TV, whether that was through like, but
Right. The way I explained it, it wasn't the adult words though. So my grandma raised me, my cousins, and my sisters up by saying our private parts was a kitty kitty.
okay.
And for the boys, it would be ding ding.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's one of the words I said, but he asked me a bigger word that I didn't much understand. So I'm just like, no.
Right.
And he was like, stop lying. He was like, you've seen one before. And I was like, no, but I could recall, now that I knew he was really trying to get like inappropriate and I know what he was talking about. I still said no, because it's like, why are we talking about that? Because I had brothers, like, yeah, I maybe walked on them into the bathroom, or, my grandma taking them a bath, like,
Right.
stuff like that. But I would say no. And right after that, I think he pulled his out. He pulled his out. And I think right then and there, I was just like, shocked. Like, I didn't know what to say. I didn't say anything. And I had never seen a grown man with no clothes like
Right.
that
Right.
ever in my life. So me just having that first glance, I immediately got scared and didn't even know what that could look like at a grown man's age, Definitely scared because, I just got a first glance of something I had never seen from a grown person before. So I had immediately was just like froze. And he told me to come touch it, what I was doing, but I just know he was making me touch him. And I don't remember the full events of how that day finished off or went on, but I just know I had never seen something like that, ever in my life. And then I immediately was just like, oh no. So right after that, I think things went back to normal. I can't really fully recall the first time he touched me, but I do know how it happened. I don't remember like what days or when,
Right.
So his first interaction touching me was talking about my hair, talking about, I don't know like specifically, but I know he would talk about those things, and I would feel a little bit embarrassed because I'm a minor, I'm a child. I don't know why I'm hitting puberty so early. Not my concern,
Right.
So I remember I would kind of try to sneak and shave my legs sometimes um as a third grader because I was embarrassed of it or something like that.
Mhm.
So his first time touching me, I think it was in a car. We were driving away from my summer school. So he began to touch me, like put his hands in my pants. So he would ask me, like, oh, does that feel good? Does that feel good? And I would always say yes, because I was scared if I were to be like,
Wow.
no, or something like that. I could never understand why I'm just like, why does he keep rubbing me here? you know. So he kept doing it, and he would do it all the way until we get back home. He would go into a whole nother subdivision, like different apartment complexes, and we would pass hours. I'm just like, are we not going home? And I remember us pulling up to the house. We finally got to the house. The my siblings were already home. They were all in the room. They can't come out the room because there's booby traps on the door. So he would put like stacks of books, and if they were to fall over, he would know if they came out that room. So we would never even test that out. We never even tried it, never tested it out, none of that. So they were always in the room until they got back home, or he got back home, him or my mom. So he had brung me into, the living room. He sat down, and he begins to start rubbing my chest. Mind you, I told you I was hitting puberty pretty early. And even as an 8-year old, I had like chest forming in a way, which is pretty crazy. So he begins to rub at them, and he goes to say, "Oh, you're growing boobs," and all this other stuff. And then he gets to kissing on my neck and sucking on my ear. Right. So, and that's when he begins to lay on his back, and he makes me take off my clothes, and he makes me get on top of him. But around this time, I kind of figured what he was trying to do to me. So I was scared, but I still did everything he asked me to do, because I'm just like, he beats me like crazy. If I don't do anything, I never disrespected him. There's not one time in my life as a child have I ever disrespected him. Like, I remember like going off on my mom or being disrespectful to her, but him, no, because I knew the things that would come with it. So he made me get on top of him, and he did not penetrate me. He did not once ever grape me, but he made me like glide across, his area. And I think that went on for about maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And I remember him pushing me or lifting me up so bad, like hard, and pushing me. And I just immediately, he's telling me, "Did it get on you? Did it get on you?" Like freaking out. And I'm just like, "No." And he was like, "Go check and go wipe." And he told me to bring him a tissue. So I came back and I bring him a tissue, and he wiped all the stuff up. And I just remember it having this nasty, foul smell. And ever since then, I was traumatized about what I seen, and what can come out of somebody, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, being that young and like, this is a grown man. This is a
mhm,
grown man violating you, and any child would be scared.
mhm,
So, as a little girl, like, what do you do? Like,
right.
where was your mom at? Where was your mother? I know you said your siblings were upstairs. Where was your mother at during this time?
Always at work. It gives as if she was the provider. She basically was, because he just wanted to be this authentic person that wants to create things. He wants to invent. I guess he invented this hat called the rally head for NFL players, golf players. It's supposed to prevent you from sweating so bad, and it keeps you cool. Apparently, like that. So he's always staying home, and then my mom's always at work. Only time we've seen her is for dinner in the morning time, and then that's it. So it's like he would bribe me and say like, "Hey, keep this between us. Don't say anything. Keep this between us. I'll buy you anything you want." So I was just like, okay, I would never say anything, but I would just listen to him. So he would take me to get candy, and I would have all these things that my siblings doesn't have. And I was allowed to paint my nails when my mom would never let me do that. So she would eventually let me do it, because he would text her and be like, "Oh, she's allowed to get her nails done," or da da da. And I would paint my own nails, and she, listened to everything he said. So it's just like, if it's okay with him, she
It
can do it.
He was
She
like,
had no authority, period.
wow. Wow. It just makes me think. So you're still 8 years old at this time, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're still eight. And like, does your mother has like, as a little girl, did your mother ever come and talk to you and say, "Hey, you know, is anyone touching you?" Like, did she ever have those kinds of conversations with you?
No, it was the only thing she was probably ever concerned about in her kids' lives is making sure we have our schoolwork done, making sure you're getting a bath and going to bed. It's not no, oh, has anybody ever hurt you? It was never, oh, I love you. I never even heard those things, you know. So no, it was no concern. I didn't even speak up to her about it around the time because, you know, I was scared to
Right.
ever mention anything. So around the time it was just me forgetting of it really happening and then going on about my 8 year old, you know, life. So, you know, whenever he would go pick her up from work, he would get done with me downstairs, take me to my room, and I shared a room with my two sisters, my older sister, my little sister, and right
Right.
across from us is my brother and my other brothers that share rooms. So it's literally a 2 bedroom townhome.
Mhm.
So my parents would sleep downstairs. So he would take me to the room, and my sisters are in there, and he would say, "Don't say anything. You know what? Not, you know, not to say anything or something like that." And around the time, I would even want to tell my older sister, but I'm just like, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to say it. And I would obviously be thinking about what he just said.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
you know, when I think about like child sexual abuse, when I think about sexual abuse as a child, and then I think about domestic violence, physical abuse, right, physical harm, and then exploitation, right, like the fact that you being so young and him violating you, and the fact that he violated you in just period, right, and then was bribing you, right,
Hmm.
saying I'm going to give you this and I'm going to give you that, um and then creating that fear so he could have that control and the power at that
Hmm.
time. um you know, how did you feel when you would receive all of these gifts? Like, I know, you know, that you felt like what he's doing is wrong, like you knew, like,
Hmm.
it's not right, right, but you didn't know how to verbalize it, you didn't know the language for it, you just knew it was wrong.
Hmm.
um but when he would give you things, did you feel like it made up for the wrong, like you forgot about it for a little bit?
Honestly, I was shocked at the fact that he would even take me to these stores and get me whatever I wanted because I never seen a side of him that was just like, yeah,
Mm,
get it, pick it out, anything. Cause he was always just so strict and so mean
mhm.
and nasty. So I'm just thinking about, is this a trick? Like, are you tricking me?
Right,
I'm not like, oh my God, I'm finally gonna get my ice cream. Like, a part of me is because I'm a child. So I'm just like, I have so many options. I've always been an indecisive in what is it, indecisive
yeah, yeah.
person. So whenever I would pick out anything he would tell me, I'm just like, a lot is still going through my head. Like, I'm scared because you don't even do this. And sometimes you can never even think what his emotions are going to be the next day. So it's like, it's not always going to be this,
Right,
oh, you're getting whatever you want, because he would still do that and still treat me like trash the next day. He's forgetting that I have the power to still say something, you know?
right,
So him just thinking that I'm a child, I'm just supposed to do everything he wants me to do and all this other stuff. But my mindset was really just like, I'm in disbelief, even as an 8 year old, that he's allowing me to get something. So
right,
not only are you bribing me, I'm not understanding why, but
right,
I'm just like, let me do it just because you even said go get it and I can get it.
right, right. Because if I don't, what could happen, right? Like if you
Hmm.
didn't, what could happen? And it sounds like you were in survival mode,
Yeah.
right? So however he responded, you know, when I think of survival mode, I think of like children trying to please that individual who's so angry. So by any means necessary, if they tell you to do this, if they tell you to do that, out of
Yeah.
being able to just breathe, right, to be alive and to
Mhm.
continue, um to be living. So yeah,
I
wow.
think that's where my people pleasing actually started.
Hmm.
Living with an angry person 24/7, having to constantly walk on the eggshells, not knowing how they're going to react. I think that's where it started,
Yes.
with me having to always want to keep whoever's around me in a good mood just in case
Yep.
something happens or just in case they dislike me. I
Right.
think that's exactly where it started. And I never could understand why. I always wanted to make sure whoever's around me likes me for some reason, because I'm just like, maybe they're gonna act like this the next day, or
Hmm.
no, I don't want to have to go through that.
Yeah, like kind of like being on eggshells with them. Like, okay, they're good now, but if they say something that is kind of like, I don't know, like what tomorrow could bring. This is
Right.
the moment. We're good now, but like not being able to trust,
Mm-hmm.
the process of a friendship or a relationship in general. Because friends, when you have a friend, you're creating a relationship. So,
Right.
um, I believe our childhood is the foundation to how we grow up and we view the world, right? Like how we
Mm-hmm.
see the world, how we, you know, um, begin to develop relationships. It's based off of what we learned as a child from those that
Right.
were supposed to take care of us. But
Mm-hmm.
um, so I know you stopped. You ended at like your mom. She was at work all the time, and he was doing all these terrible things as far as like he started touching you and all that.
Right.
um
There was one time that he actually had the balls to do it while she was still there. I remember he would have this section in our townhome where he would do his inventions and put his little hat thing that he invented on these little silicone plastic, bobbleheads. And my mom would just be on the couch, just chilling, so nobody would ever bother him. But he called me downstairs one time, and I came down there, and he was on his knees already because the little bobbleheads were really, short. So he began to just start rubbing me on the outside of my shorts. And I think I had freshly got out of the shower as well. So he began to continue to rub me, and he asked me if I like that, and I'm just saying yes, because I don't know what he's going to do. And then he begins to say, "You're wet." And I'm just like, I'm thinking I pissed on myself. I'm just like, what is he talking about? I'm wet. So I'm freaking out. I'm just like, is he gonna whoop me? Is he gonna hit me? Like, what is he gonna do? So he was like, why are you wet? And I was just like, I'm thinking it's a trick question. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. And he began to keep asking me if I liked it, and he just kept rubbing me. And I think like he was like looking at his fingers, and I think I did have a spot like under my pants or something like that. And that was the one time I think he had like the balls to like actually do that while my mother was still home, and her just being so oblivious and just letting him do anything, or just not being so observant of your surroundings or what's going on in your own home. So I think that's the one time that I can recall, he did that. But other than that, I think it didn't it lasted about maybe a few weeks. He wasn't doing this to me for years or months. Like, it just happened a few times back to back. And right after that, it stopped for some reason. And I asked my sister recently that we just had a conversation, and I told her that it wasn't long. And she was just like, I know it stopped because I started allowing him to do it to me again, because she wanted to protect me. So she began to go, in more detail. I'm just like, she didn't know it was happening to me, but she had a feeling, she said. She just had this one feeling because she said she's seen him staring at me at one point in time. And I was like, what do you mean he was staring at me? She was like, I don't know. He was just looking at you in some type of way.
wow.
But she just started feeling like something is going to happen soon. She wanted to protect me. And they would have their times where it's just like, I guess he would treat her weird or beat her sometimes, and I wouldn't understand why. And she said it was because she had a season in her life while she would tell him, no, I don't want this to happen to me. And he did things to her that he didn't physically do to